Before I get started, I'd like to talk just to kind of set the stage, because I think that if you understand some of our threats, then you can see why we've moved into disaster preparedness and community preparedness the way we have. Washington State is the third highest threat of earthquake in the United States. Alaska's number 1 and California's number 2. Washington State's number 3. We have 4 different kinds of earthquakes that can happen in our area, from barely felt up to the great earthquake like Japan had. We will have an 8 or greater earthquake that will shake for minutes, not seconds, and will reshape the coastline where it literally won't exist. We will lose thousands of people, but that will be a lot less because of our education than it could be. I believe that with every audience that I teach, my job is to empower and to set a personal connection and a partnership with everybody in the audience. And the way I like to do that is to remind them that I put it this way, I could be the best educator you've ever heard in your life, disaster educator, ever. Work with me, I could be. It could happen. It could. But I don't have the power that you do as an individual. We've found that people need to be in the environment of this information at least 7 times before they actually know it exists. That's your awareness campaigns and your bus boards and your billboards and your transit advertisements, radios, that type of thing. But they need to hear it from 3 sources that they deem credible before they will take an action to get better prepared. I believe that's pretty true with any cause that you want to have. They need to hear it from 3 sources that they deem credible. So when I connect with my audiences, I remind them, you are going to be the source that's going to make a change in somebody you care about. The information you learn in the class could save their lives, and this audience here could save more lives than all first responders combined. So I like to try to take any of our programs and connect on that personal level and remind them. Just one of the things I really appreciated when we started our whole conference was the guidelines of what gets said can be used. We are all the epitome of public domain, and everything that we say needs to be able to be translated by that human being that hears your message in a way that connects with the person that they care the most about. And in a lot of our, and we just did some recent research for a campaign, and we found the number 1 thing people want to do in a disaster situation is survive. And how basic is that we've kind of overlooked that a little bit. But survival is number 1, and then survival of our family, friends, and neighbors, the people we care about, is the second most important thing. But survival is it. And so we need to put that down on that base, and that's where we come from with our neighborhood program. So even though earthquake is our biggest threat, and that typically is what motivates people, severe weather is our second. That we have more presidential declarations based on severe weather than any other threat. But I do have people who don't want to go into either one of those, and so they did a hazard vulnerability analysis of Washington State, and they found, and basically what they did is they put a group of people together who like to think about disasters, and they did a spreadsheet, and they did a list of all of the bad, nasty things that could possibly happen. And then across the top, they put every state in the United States. And if you could host one of those things, you got a check mark. Guess who came out number 1? Washington State. Ooh. So I have a lot of work to go, yes. So our neighborhood preparedness goal is disaster ready. What does that look like? It comes in 3 ways. Our city government needs to be ready to respond. And how do we organizationally do that? Our community needs to be ready to respond. And we need to be ready to recover. So, and ready can come in many different fashions. There's no one direction. And I would challenge you that whatever your program you create has to be just as flexible and adaptable and creative and unique as every individual community, culture, and organization you have in your community. And that if it's a one-size-fits-all, it's probably not going to fit anybody very well. Our biggest challenges. There are very few people who get up in the morning and go, wow, what a beautiful day. Gosh, I hope we have a disaster today. I want to test my plan. I want to know that everybody's safe. I want to get into my disaster supplies because they're really good. Doesn't usually happen. So we have to overcome the 4 phases of denial. First phase of denial, it's not going to happen. Second phase of denial, yeah, it's going to happen, but it won't happen here. That's a New York thing. That's a California thing. That's an Alaska thing. That's a Japan thing. Christchurch, Chile, Haiti. Yeah, the third phase of denial. Yeah, it's going to happen. It'll happen here, but it won't be that bad. I'm from California. I've been through every disaster known to mankind, either in real life or Hollywood, and besides, the government's going to be here to help, right? And the fourth phase of denial, yeah, it's going to happen. It's going to be so bad, we're all going to die anyway, so why should I prepare? Fatalistic viewpoint. And when the media shows the tsunami and the devastation in Japan, they show the devastation from Superstorm Sandy, and they don't show the survivors and the good things. It throws people off like lemmings into that fourth phase of denial. And we have to get everybody back on the horse of saying, it's okay, we are going to survive. We are going to survive. Managing the big barriers. Once they get into this mode, they've seen it 7 times, they've got 3 people who have told them it's going to be, now they're going to ready, okay, I'm going to go, I'm going to get ready. 3 big barriers. I don't have time, I don't have money, I don't know where to start. And we recognize those early, and part of our program is developing a way in which we can counteract all of those barriers when I hear them, or when they're said. And I empower my audiences with ammunition so that they can help who's ever talking to them overcome those barriers too. The new 4th barrier, which really shocked me. We just did a recent research for a new campaign. We're trying to introduce the word catastrophe into the educational mode without throwing people off into the 4th phase of denial. So we did some research around it before we developed a campaign called What to Do to Make It Through. Their survival instinct, what they want to do, how to make it through, that's how it all came around through focus groups. The 4th barrier that we came up with that surprised the heck out of me, we've been teaching get ready for at least 3 days. Nobody ever heard the terms at least. They only heard 3 days. And they even got specific. How many years have we been teaching? 72 hours. We got it down to the minute. You only have to be ready for 72 hours, and then everything's going to be fine. New barrier. People said, well, if it's only 3 days, I can get by. Really set us up for a new change, which in our area, we're now pushing 7 to 10 days. The reason why we went 7 to 10 days, and people are saying that's not enough. The experts in the field are saying it's not enough. In our focus groups, we found the tipping point was 7 to 10 days. If you ask them to prepare for more than 7 to 10 days, they won't do it. They go back into the 4 phases of denial. They go back into the 3 big barriers. So this is not caught on nationally. I would really hope that you can try to encourage that a little bit, because we do have to meet we will push them beyond 7 to 10 days, but not today. We will get them to 7 to 10 days eventually, and then we'll get beyond. But that was our new learnings. Managing expectations. We had a huge snowstorm, which was really more than 3 inches in Seattle. I know you guys always call us weather wimps when we get a little bit of snow and nothing gets done. But we had a major snowstorm, and after 3 days, people were just in a fit because the snow hadn't melted. We have no control over that. But we hadn't gotten the snow plowed, and the power was out, and there was trees down, those kind of things. So we really do have to manage the expectations, and that expectation is you will be on your own for 7 to 10 days in a catastrophic event. And what I'm also learning is that we have to let people know, what does on your own mean? Because on your own to the rural community means a whole lot different than on your own to the urban community. So the way I like to explain it is that when you flip the switch, nothing will happen. When you turn the faucet on, nothing will happen. When you flush, it won't go away. We get very personal in my programs. And you can prepare for all of that if you know in advance and you have those expectations. I've been letting our audiences know, don't plan on seeing a shelter set up in your community for at least 7 days. Why? Because we have to get transportation, water, and fuel, and electricity, and all those things to that shelter. So who's the first shelter set up? Who sets that up? Community. Who's the first responder on scene? Community, they are. And by the way, I'm hearing this, we try not to use the term citizen anymore. It disenfranchises all of my immigrant refugee community. So we're all residents and we're community. I thought I'd pass that along. We have very limited resources. There's 608,000 people that live in Seattle. Myself and 2 training specialists, we're it for the training side. My boss often jokes that she's responsible for the 10,200 employees that make up the city's disaster readiness and response plan, and I'm responsible for the other 608,000. So it is part of our barriers, our challenges. So the first thing we did is we found out who has a similar mission and connected with them. I'm going to highlight a couple with this. The Department of Neighborhoods has probably been one of our best resources in two ways. One, they're a trusted source within the community and they are in the community. But secondly, they have a wonderful program called the Neighborhood Matching Fund. And they have 3 levels of funding sources that neighborhoods can connect with, match with their own time or resources, and then do an improvement in their neighborhood. Disaster preparedness has been one of those themes now. So we have neighborhoods, and I have to tell you, I don't define neighborhood. I say neighborhood, but neighborhood is defined by the neighborhood. So one of the big barriers people tell me is, I don't know anybody in my neighborhood. I can't do this. I go, really? You don't know anybody? Really? Oh, I know one person. Okay, so if you walked over to that one person, you said, hi, I'm JoAnn. I'll check on you if you'll check on me. Would they do it? They say, yeah. Cool, you're a SNAP neighborhood. It starts with 1, build from there. It's okay. Given that permission, the neighborhood looks like them. It doesn't look like me. It's not my program, it's theirs. Department of Neighborhoods, fabulous connection. Our Seattle Housing Authority, low income, really low resourced community, gets small sparks awards of up to $1,000. They match it, and it's their time valued at $15 an hour is the match. What a cool idea. What they bought with it? Flashlights, first aid kits, things that the community could not afford, and they built community out of it. I have another neighborhood that got a $20,000 grant, and they taught 85 people basic first aid and bought supplies, because their part of the community will be completely cut off because only 2 bridges go into that area. So they know they're the first responders. Very cool program, I love that. Second one I want to highlight is the Seattle Police Department. My office is actually part of the Seattle Police Department. The neighborhood night out in August was a huge boon for us. The community registers online to close their street off. And when they did this last year, we asked in their survey, would you like information to hand out on disaster preparedness to your neighborhood? 320 neighborhoods asked for materials. We asked the second question, would you like a program delivered in your neighborhood to help you learn how to organize to take care of each other? I have over 200 neighborhoods on a wait list for a program as a result of one night out in August. So that's a really good tool to try to get your message out if that works for you. So leading people to disaster ready. First of all, make sure they understand the expectations and manage those expectations. The reason we're asking them to prepare is because we're not going to be there, and explain why. And it does make good sense once people understand that. Providing options. So it's really kind of interesting that we have to give our neighborhoods a reason to meet each other. And they have to come to the conclusion that my neighbors, my coworkers, my family, my friends, those are my resources. But you have to really say that. And everybody is at a different place when it comes to disaster preparedness and what motivates them. So I have to have a buffet of disaster preparedness options for whenever they're hungry, they can come to the trough and pick it and find what fits for them. I have information translated in 19 languages. I was telling somebody I practically gave myself tendinitis because I was patting myself on the back because I translated all this stuff. And then I found out that the community I was translating for are not literate in their language. So I applied ice and took ibuprofen and got a creative artist, and we translated everything in pictorially. So everything that we translate now is in pictorially form, it's in written form, and we're moving towards verbal form in video format. Instructors. And then one of the best things in the program is so simple. It's called a help OK sign. For apartments, it's a door hanger. This is so simple. Yellow paper, black lettering. We teach our neighbors when we teach our program, this is a communication tool for you and your neighbors. If you need help, you put the help sign in the window to signal your neighbors to come help you. If you're okay, before you go check on your neighbors, you put the OK sign out. This is the tool for which they meet the neighbors they don't want to meet. And I'll tell you, organizing with your neighborhood is the #1 thing people did not want to do when it came to our surveys. They don't want to meet their neighbors, they don't like their neighbors, they don't know their neighbors, they don't speak the language of their neighbors, they don't look like them anymore. Oh, hate that. Well, this becomes the catalyst. And we give them a script, and it's sad to say, we have to do that in our communities now. We have to give them a reason to meet one another. The moving truck doesn't get welcomed with a potluck and everybody helping to unload the truck anymore. It's like, why are they coming? I like the other guys before. Why'd they have to move? Ugh. So a catalyst to creating an opportunity for people to meet each other. I'm going to do a very quick story with this. We had, in our last major snowstorm, we had a neighborhood that the kids were coming home. These were adult kids of the neighborhood organizer. And they came in the door and they said, you know, there's this, across the street, they got this help sign in the window. And they said, really? So she raced over there, because she's the neighborhood organizer. She says, are you okay? He says, you know, I don't have any food in the house because I can't get out. My husband's in the hospital. They organized their entire neighborhood to take care of that person as a result of that sign. Makes all the difference in the world. So I'd encourage you, as you pull your programs together, apply maximum kinesthetic learning as you can. Engage your audience and have them be part of your team from the very beginning. We have an excuse to meet each other. Provide suggestions for them. People who live in an urban environment don't necessarily think creatively and out of the box when it comes to survival. So what's the first thing that goes bad in your refrigerator in a major power outage? A refrigerator. Did I give you the answer? The stuff in your fridge. So encourage potlucks. What goes bad next? The freezer. Have barbecues. Help people realize that individually you're prepared for 7 to 10 days, but together you're prepared for months. It's a collective increase in capacity. And capture, the last one on this slide, capture your teachable moments. The earthquake in Japan was the biggest teachable moment I've ever had in my career. That day, after that event, we taught that year 380 programs and 13,000 people in less than a year because of that one event. And I'm still tired. So when they don't participate with you, take the time to figure out why. Is it because you're not the trusted source? Is the materials not quite right? Be simple and practical. And I'm not going to be able to get into this, my time's running out. So I'm going to go into just a couple of, please, lessons learned. If you're going to ask for feedback, make sure you listen. And I would encourage you, before you go into a community to give your program and make your pitch, would you attend at least 5 meetings where you say nothing, you listen, and you help them set up and put away the chairs. So you become part of the community before you talk to them or talk at them. I think my biggest lessons learned is things to take my partner and I have a sailboat. Everything takes longer than you perceive it should. I've been doing this for 7 years, roughly 6 years. We rolled it out 6 years ago. And I still am not anywhere near where I thought I would be. Change is hard and it takes a lot longer. Everything will take longer than you perceive it should. Simple is not easy. Don't always explain it that way, because in some communities, every day is a disaster because they can't get food on their table. How can I ask a community to prepare for 7 to 10 days when they're going to the food bank every week? The way you do that is you say at the end of the week, if you have an extra can, throw it in your disaster supplies kit. If you don't have an extra can the next week and you need food, that's your disaster, and you go get it out of your kit and you use it. You connect with them where they are. Leaders need training, so offer a variety. Keep your buffet growing and ready to serve them when they're ready for it. Be practical, encourage resourcefulness, and celebrate it when it's so unique you had never expected it to go there. Adapt and change. Expect help where you least expect it. Target has come into our community 2 years in a row with $10,000 to help us help community members that are low resourced in disaster supplies. Had no idea it was coming. From our neighborhood preparedness program, neighborhoods are organizing together without our help at all. It's all their idea, to emergency hubs. They said, well, once we're personally prepared and our neighborhood's prepared, then how do we know whether another neighborhood needs help? Neighborhood emergency hubs are popping up. We have 42 of them, all self-driven, all community-driven, all community designed. They meet in a playground or a park, and if you need a ladder and this neighborhood has one, they share it for that 7 to 10 days. It's how are they going to help each other? We now, from that group, have the captains of the neighborhood hubs, the hub caps, They're becoming my volunteer instructors to helping me reach those 200 neighborhoods that want a program. And we're training them now, and they're being our trainers. And for where it goes from here, I have no idea, but we will continue to go. Thank you.